everybody.
What's up?
Oh, hey.
The gang is assembled once again. Thank you all for being here. X-Men 97, Episode 6, Life, Death, Part 2. This will be the shortest live ever. Wolverine was not in it, 0 stars. Yes, yes, yes.
I can go on for like 10-15 minutes about Storm's transformation.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah,
So, okay, it won't
she
be
had
short.
her
Okay.
magical girl moment finally.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I thought we could shut this thing down like right now, but okay, we'll get into it then.
Live from the Milky Way ghetto.
Yes. That is the way to intro it for sure. There is once again, if the people who make this fantastic show are good at anything, it's giving us a lot to unpack. There always is. This episode is no different. We'll just start right off the bat with the intro. The interesting thing as we've seen like these intros shift from episode to episode, we no longer have Gambit. We no longer have Magneto. But
wait, is Stefania okay?
are we still processing?
Our girl is
like
not okay.
after episode 5, it took I can't even rewatch the episode because it's like it's really gonna affect me if I do. And then seeing the intro for episode 6, and I was like, I know Gambit and Magneto are not gonna be in there, but like especially Gambit, he's not gonna be there. But then I saw Nightcrawler, and I was like, okay, this is cool, but I want Gambit back. So, like, after episode 5, and then I recovered, right? And then, boom, episode 6, the intro, not there. I was like, damn.
Yeah, Magneto gone, Gambit gone, but we got Nightcrawler. And also in this intro, we got our first shot of Nimrod. So that's going to be on the thing. And then we've got a little brief thing there of Bishop and Future Storm and Future Wolverine, we're assuming, fighting Nimrod. And then the X-Men fighting the Shi'ar. And then, we got the Xavier and the Landra kiss, nauseating. I guess thoughts on the intro as everything's shifting here now. Dylan, what do you think?
Nightcrawler was awesome. And not that I am trying to put any sort of like salt in the wound, but like even the like running sideways part where they got rid of Gambit and added Nightcrawler, I was like, oh, they like want you to be mad. Yeah. That's all.
Fair. Michelle, what'd you think?
I didn't catch that Nightcrawler replaced Gambit in like the running part until later, like after rewatching and seeing a lot of recaps. That made me sad. I didn't actually notice Magneto was missing. I was more concerned about Gambit. So I feel like that means I'm a Gambit stan. So no more Daddy Mags for me.
Especially if we find out he had something to do with Genosha. Like, we don't know yet. He could also still be alive. We don't know yet.
Was the professor?
He's on the border right now between, like, Zaddy and Ew. So, we'll have to wait and see.
I honestly think that in that side-scrolling shot where they're all attacking, Gambit actually is in that. You just can't see him. His grave's behind the mansion. So it's there, just you can't see it. So
this I was like, so savage.
Yeah, he was in it before, and then you come in with that.
Oh my god, I love it.
It's a great stone. They spared no expense. This episode opens and we get our first glimpse now of X-Men 97 of space fights going on, and the Kree are just getting annihilated by the Shi'ar. It's actually a lot of fun to watch, just stuff blowing up everywhere. This is where we get to see Deathbird and Gladiator come in. We see Ronan, who those who are just familiar with the MCU, you would know him from Guardians of the Galaxy and briefly in Captain Marvel. And he is not really an object of contention for Deathbird. He comes at her with all he's got, and she smacks him to the side like a fly. So I guess before, because there's just like a lot to unpack there, of course, that all gets interrupted by Lilandra giving her address broadcast all across the Empire about how Xavier, this Terran, this ghetto trash Terran, has won her heart, and they are to be wed. So we'll just go with that batch of stuff, and we'll start with you, Steph.
Well, when I first watched it, I was like, "Is that Ronan?" Because I recognized the hammer, and I was like, "That has to be him," but he doesn't look like Ronan. And then it was like confirmed after that it was him. I was like, "Oh, okay, makes sense." But I thought that was really cool, a really cool detail to put in. And then you have this connection to the MCU with Kree, so now it's all connecting, which is pretty cool. But seeing all these characters we saw them like briefly back in the 90s run, and then now they're back and they are in a different animation form. They look really awesome. It's really cool. I I was like thinking, because when Xavier was like suiting up, right? I was thinking a year with the Shi'ar, and they didn't help him walk again. Like they gave him an exoskeleton suit, and they couldn't help him walk again. But I thought that was pretty funny. So, but yeah, I thought it was a cool opening. Love the connection to the MCU, and yeah, I'm excited to talk about more.
Mm-hmm. They had the ability to help Xavier walk, but he's Terran. It's not covered under their insurance plan. So, pre-existing condition. Michelle, you.
Okay, well, first of all, Deathbird is a whole ass mood, okay? Like, she gets called a freaking pigeon, and she does not, like, hesitate with just obliterating this army. She's like, whatever, and the fact that okay, I don't understand why she's so shady about Terrans when she's definitely hooking up with Vulcan on the down low, okay? Like, he's a Terran, and like pot calling the kettle black here. I mean, I don't know. We just get so many good like one-liners from her too. I mean, she's shady, but like I love the shade. I just love it. Like she's my absolute favorite now.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much name calling in this episode. I was
I
like,
know.
who is angry right now? Like, who worked on this and is angry?
Mm-hmm.
I love it though.
Really just wanted to get all their feelings out in this episode.
Right, and this would have been the episode to have Wolverine in it, because if somebody's going to throw insults, like, you just needed to pop in, even on video chat, and, call somebody something.
No.
Yeah, he's got to find somebody else to call Dumbo now. Yeah, she did have it covered. Dylan, how about you, bud?
It was really cool to see Deathbird. But Michelle talked about her enough. So it was neat to see that they included Vulcan as a part of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard. I don't think he actually was ever a part of that. He was just their emperor in comics when he was married to Deathbird. But yeah, it's kind of interesting if they'll ever talk about that, or if it'll be probably something we don't ever see until like season 2. And Gladiator. Nobody talked about Gladiator. It was cool to see Gladiator in like the new animation and be able to kick ass too. So, yeah. Also, fun fact, the person that did the voice of Gladiator also did the voice of that little person that came in and gave Deathbird the message. Also, the guy that did those two also did the voice of Leech and Banshee and Mojo.
Oh my lord.
His name is David Arrigo Jr.
I love that.
His Marvel check.
Yeah.
He was the voice of Ferb in Phineas and Ferb also.
Oh yes. I know who you're talking about now.
Wow. Yeah, and the thing about Gladiator in this is Gladiator could be a whole mood, but he doesn't need to be. Like he could just body that whole room at any time and just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna run things now. But he's like, nah, that's not even worth my time. So we do obviously. I think we all knew that Xavier wasn't really dead. Like even though that was like the way the season 6 of the original series ended, he went off into space, and the series begins, this, first episode, it's death certificates there, but we knew, right? We knew. And I got to give a shout out to Ross Marquardt, who did the voice of Xavier, who I think did an absolutely phenomenal job. And as a total side note, I don't want to ramble, but I met him in November at Twin Cities Con. And it was a Sunday, and things were really quiet. My wife and I went up to his booth. Nobody was there. We stood and talked to him for like a half an hour. I was wearing my Uncanny Experience jacket. He was engaging my wife and all kinds of X-Men conversation and who our favorite X-Men were and what we thought about. This guy knew he was voicing Xavier. He knew it at the time, but it wasn't public yet. So next time I see him, I'm going to be like, dude, you knew. You knew, and you baited us into all that. I hope I didn't call Xavier a jerk through all that. But
Finch, I will tell you, I had a conversation with Ross at the premiere, and I told him about how there was somebody he was asking me about the Uncanny Experience, and I was like, yeah, somebody who bought one of our jackets was talking to you, and he said, yep. And the whole time I wanted to tell him I was Xavier and couldn't.
Oh,
that is too
amazing.
cool. Yeah, because when we were talking to him, he was asking about the jacket. I showed him all the pictures on my phone of the Uncanny Experience. I was even telling him, like, they've got a booth over there. Go check it out. I was doing everything I could to get him to, like, go over there and talk to Chandler, and maybe digits would get exchanged or something. But that's cool that you had that on the other end too. Okay, I want to get into the Xavier Lilandra stuff, but I'm going to do it a little bit later because I really want to get into this Forge Storm stuff because this is like the heavyweight of this episode. After we have this whole thing at the beginning with Xavier and Lilandra is when we cut to this whole thing with Forge Storm and Adversary, which is what we got left off with. Like, they were like, hey, something's really heavy happening. We're going to stop from that and for an episode rip your heart out and then come back to the heavy thing that's happening, which is precisely what we did. We see Forge has got this infection going on. Storm goes through this whole nightmare sequence of trying to get out, of being locked in a coffin by Adversary. And she ends up in the basement fighting Adversary, and Forge shows up going all Doctor Strange on this thing's ass. And pulls out the Book of Ashanti and just like, be gone, demon. And kind of says, hey, in this book, there is a cure for this. It's in a cave so far away. Let's ride together. All of that encapsulated. Michelle, what did you think?
first of all, I full on thought that Doctor Strange was having a cameo. Like I was so confused. I'm all, Doctor Strange is in this? What? Like, that's so random. And then I realized it was Forge. And then I was watching one of those YouTube recaps, and it's something about how like all the magic in the MCU is kind of having that type of look to it to tie it all together. And like that makes sense. Um, but yeah, that was the thing. I was really hung up on that for a second. I'm like, Doctor Strange, what? What?
How about you, Steph?
So I also watched a recap video, and they said that these symbols that Forge had in his magic were different than what Doctor Strange uses. So he was thinking that the symbols with Forge's magic is more like native to his culture, which makes a lot of sense. So I thought that was a really cool detail, whether on purpose or not. But I also was like, does he know how to do magic like Doctor Strange? And like, did he go to, or did his mother go to, what's it called? The temple where they all trained? I was like, did they learn that or something? 'Cause that's really cool if they did that connection there. But I, let me tell you something. I am not claustrophobic, but seeing Storm get trapped in that coffin, I was like, I would freak the hell out. Like that is like one of my biggest fears is like being buried alive, you know? So seeing that, and I was like, oh my God, I love, like, my heart is pumping so fast right now. But I thought the whole Life Death Part 2 storyline was really good. And we'll talk about Storm's transformation, but I just really, really enjoyed it. And seeing more connections and defeating the adversary, and then the adversary coming back. I just love Allison's performance as the adversary, the dynamic, you know, between voicing the adversary and voicing Storm, just seeing that difference, it's really, really awesome.
Dylan?
Yeah, Forge's Doctor Strange moment was nice. There's a group chat that Michelle and I are both part of with other people that I want to say they pointed out something that was really funny, and it's how in comics and now the cartoon, Forge hates shirts, which I'm happy. I love that. I'm all for it. And yeah, just the Storm adversary part, the best part of it is the fact that it's Allison doing both lines. And it's just so cool because it actually doesn't sound different, but it's just cool how the adversary is so menacing, and Storm's voice we were so used to be love and motherly. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And yeah, we've said this before, and I could go on and on about it again. Like, Allison deserves every award on the planet. I mean, especially, like, even if she wasn't doing the voice of adversary, like, just her performance as Storm so far in season 1. I mean, even when she lost her powers, and we all remember, like, I can't feel the wind, and then, now with these 2 life-death episodes. But doing adversary on top of it, like, she's doing double duty and killing it at both. So now we got to go back to this Elandra Xavier stuff. So we see sort of like the Shi'ar is sort of like, a little bit in turmoil going on here. Of course, Deathbird shows up, and this is where we get the Milky Way ghetto line. Like, she is just like Deathbird and Emma could be besties. Like, I just want an episode of just those two having dinner together or drinks, because that would be the funniest episode ever. Because of course, Deathbird, like, let's face it, like, her and people who think like her are straight up, like, just, I guess, racist towards Earthlings, like towards Terrans. Like, they are just not worth their time. We are like I saw someone, I think, posted it on Instagram that Earth is like the planet that they lock their doors when they drive by, because they're like, it's absolute ghetto trash. And so, has this whole thing where she invokes what was it called, Indasha, which is basically like this whole thing that if somebody who's of Shi'ar has to pass a loyalty test in order to marry a royal, and basically says, hey, because I don't personally understand it, but she's very concerned that, like, if he becomes king, married to the queen, that he's going to want to make Earth the home base, and that's just like the worst thing. That's like moving your capital to Detroit or something, and it's just bad. So that's where we end up with that.
Someone watching is in Detroit.
Right?
I didn't make you move there. Anyway,
You are definitely channeling your inner Deathbird right now.
Oh, okay.
It's because Wolverine isn't there, and Deathbird has the same hair as him. So Finch is like, I gravitate towards people with that hair.
Logan had it first. That's all I'm gonna say. She's copying him because she knows what's up. So we'll start with all that. Dylan, your thoughts on that whole sequence?
I just put a piece of candy in my mouth. My thoughts.
That's why I went to you first.
I'm gonna be the person that says it just because I'm the gigantic Storm fan. Why couldn't she have her own episode? And why couldn't this nonsense happen in another episode? But anyway, again, Deathbird is amazing. But also, again, I love how this is just like the show in the 90s. We're telling a story underneath that some people might not catch because they're not smart. But that story of racism and xenophobia and things like that is there, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Steph?
I mean, just Deathbird with the one-liners, and like Xavier clapping back at her too is all like that back and forth between them was actually really funny. But I remember when I watched it and I heard the Milky Way ghetto line, I was like, what the fuck? Like, how dare she? But you're also like, maybe. But I liked the bickering. The fact that I I I agree with Dylan that Storm should have her own episode with Life Death. Um, but the whole thing where she told Xavier that you have to forget your past life, basically. So forget about the X-Men, forget about all that. And it's so that's like probably the hardest thing that you can let go of is memories of people that you care about a lot. Because those are really the only thing. That's really the only thing if you're like far away from them that'll keep you sane. So and like also the hope that you're going to see them again. Even if you don't ever see them again, the memories still stand and all. So that was really really harsh of her to ask of. And oh, I think Xavier said something about like, oh, maybe it comes later about them being descendants of birds and like I don't know. He said like a one-liner. I'm not sure if I remember correctly. If you guys remember, but I thought that was really funny too. Um, and and like we'll get to it, but the fact that like I'm gonna jump ahead and say this, but uh, when they say to forget about your friends back at home, like X-Men and all that, like he's like he can't forget about Magnus, like Magneto. He doesn't want to forget him, his closest friend. So I can only imagine if I was in that position, I would also refuse because I could never forget like my bestest friends. That would just be too hard for me, especially because like they're brothers basically. So or more. Can go both ways. But yeah, those are my thoughts about the whole thing.
Michelle.
I understand like wanting Storm to have her own episode. Like I definitely get it. But there are parallels between the two stories. Both of these characters are dealing with suppression. Like they're both being forced or asked to suppress like who they really are. Like Charles is being asked to give up his memories, his X-Men, his life as a Terran, and Storm is her powers are literally suppressed, and it they're complementary stories. They're just told with different emotions. Like I feel like Storm's journey is much more, it's scarier, it's more emotional. Like I think we're more invested in that. Where the one with Charles, it seems really silly. Like to me, Lalandra actually comes off as being like low key, like anti-Terran. Also, she's Deathbird is saying out loud what Lalandra is doing with her actions, basically. Like Lalandra is all polite society over here, trying to be like oh, like for me, Charles, like don't you care about me? Forget your past. Like it's okay. Like we're gonna build this like wonderful future together. And Deathbird's like, yeah, your man's with his like freaky fluids or whatever she said. When she's also like definitely into Terrence herself. So
I know the whole time I was like, Charles, go home. Just go home.
yeah, like
Don't
this girl
take
has him
this.
booty blinded. He is booty
Literally, I
blinded.
was like, forget that bitch. Go home.
Right. Yeah, and Lalandra in this like just comes off to me as polite snotty, right? Because like can you imagine if you're like somebody from high society and you do genuinely fall in love with somebody from a much more impoverished neighborhood and you're bringing them to your life and buying them clothes and all this kind of stuff, and oh by the way, part of us getting married is you have to erase your mind of where you were, and that's just trash anyway. Just forget about it. Just she even tells them like they weren't nice to you anyway. Just F those people. Just forget about them. It's fine. You're here now. You know, toxic to begin with, like asking anybody you're with to do that, because that your memories and your experiences are who you are. So what is it you're really in love with? It's definitely not his running shoes. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there, but I was not a fan of it. So we we'll skip ahead to like, and I love this scene where like Forge and Storm are riding side by side. Like just the cinematography of it was beautiful. I love the way they shot that. They get to this cave where they're going to find this cactus. And this is like tough to do because it's such a short scene where they get to this cave and they have this exchange. I'm not going to get into why the U.S. Army would be storing ammunition there during the Civil War way out in the desert anyway. But and Forge says, "This is why I came with you, because I know you don't like tight spaces," and points his flashlight at this little tiny little opening in the rock. I don't know, Steph, what do you think about all that?
Well, Forge makes a comment about like colonizers making that their base and storing ammunition there and basically like taking over the land and stuff. So I thought that was a really important line to listen to carefully, based off, history in our world, in our country. But the fact, again, with the tight spaces kind of thing, if I had to go through something like that, I mean, I'm not claustrophobic. I know I always say that, and then I say, like, I would not want to be caught in that space. Like, that's terrifying for her. But the fact that she has this determination to do something for the person that she loves, it speaks a lot about Storm, because she will sacrifice her phobia, being scared of tight spaces, to keep her lover alive. So that says a lot, especially being part of the X-Men and always saving people that don't really like you. It's just you're saving them. That's a good thing to do. That's the right thing to do. And that makes her one of like the best leaders of the X-Men, because she has that persona, she has that authoritative nature in her. So I thought that was really a really nice light to shine upon for her.
Mm-hmm. Michelle?
Yeah, just touching on what Steph said about like the Civil War stuff that was there. Like that is also like a type of suppression. Like these colonizers came in and they were like literally suppressing the beliefs of the native people there. And then Storm is literally being like suppressed into these little tiny spaces that she's uncomfortable with, like trying to make herself fit, to save Forge. So there's just a lot of these like parallels in the story. Even with the Laundra and Child storyline, you kind of see how they're all about like suppressing other civilizations. Like they definitely come in and they're colonizing as well. Like they're taking over planets and other species and basically like assimilating them into their beliefs and their world, and that's all that matters. Like nothing else, everything else is trash basically to them.
Dylan?
Yeah, when I think I watched it like 4 times, and I think the third time is when I was like, fine, I will be nice to Xavier and see, like Michelle said, the parallels in the story. It took me getting to the third watch of it though. But again, the writing of the show has so many underlining meanings, and they're just mentioning America's horrible history. But you can also, I mean, none of us can hear it in these ears, but certain words and things that Storm said, Black women have always said in history about how much they have to act a certain way when they're in public, even more so than Black men, because Black men are men and Black women have to be above everyone else to make sure they don't come off as the crazy Black woman. So just Storm talking about having the ability to save these people, but take that times 2, and that's how much hate she gets for just being who she is and saving people. So yeah, that was fun to read the lines underneath what's actually being said.
Mm-hmm. And I think that goes right into everything that all of you said, goes right into this whole thing where Xavier is going to go through this. Like, he's agreed to it. He's going to go through this rite of Indasha. and he kind of hesitates. Deathbird even this is where Xavier gets referred to, not even a Terran, a lower caste. Like, you're even below ghetto. Like, this is how little they think of mutants here. And, Deathbird lunges at Lalandra, which is like Gladiator just smacks her aside again because he's like, oh my God, sisters. Violence breaks out, and I think there's this really great sequence here where Xavier projects everyone to the astral plane, and the class is now back in session, scene as it were. And I'm going to, rather than like stop there and go back to the life death stuff, we'll just like pack it in together because it all sort of goes in with that. Where Xavier is in this astral classroom. I'm sorry. And Deathbird tries to immediately just like, I'm out of here. F this. Demerits, and gives this lecture on how the Empire is a snake oil racket, as he calls it. Is you go into these cultures and you cut them down and then build them back up with the idea they're going to assimilate to you, and basically says, why are you doing this? So that entire like scene as it unfolds, obviously, you've pointed out, this mirrors a lot of what we saw before. There's a ton of layers to this. Dylan, we'll start with you on this one.
It was really cool to, even though a lot of people are not Xavier fans, it's cool that, on another planet where everybody else, like, not any of them are as strong as him when it comes to telepathy, like, to see just how powerful he is. And yeah, just to, once again, like the scene before with Storm and Forge, reminding everyone how horrible governments and countries and things can be, including America, and how they just destroy to get where they are.
Yeah. Steph?
I just want to first point out, Deathbird is just calling mutants like the below middle class, lower class, and like dirt, basically. But like, what are your thoughts on the Avengers? Just curiosity, because like they also have powers, but they weren't born with them. I just want to know your thoughts. I bet you love them, so it's also like maybe people, not maybe, definitely people in like political standings that are like, oh, if someone that agrees with you does something bad, you'll be like, oh, it's okay, a little tap on the hand, that's it, that's all I get. But if somebody that doesn't agree with you politically, whatever, does something equally as bad, it's like, you're dead, jail to you, like all that. So that's kind of the vibe it was giving. And like, okay, girl, you are just a teeny bit crazy, and Xavier needs to get out of here as soon as he can. But then going on to like the classroom setting, Xavier did what Xavier knew best. He's a professor, and he was like, we're going to be teaching a lesson today. And it's kind of like, you're also back in class in session, and you're also listening to Xavier speak about all this, and you're listening to what he's saying. You're thinking, yeah, that happens. I've definitely heard about that, learned about that, and like he's basically hitting it on the nail with what happens with civilizations in the world, and people come in and just take over. I actually, to connect this with with Avatar and Legend of Korra, I just finished both of those. So, and that happens in that show too, where there's colonization and wanting to take over and all that, especially in the last season of Legend of Korra. But I thought that was a really great lesson to put in there. These underlying texts that we like talked about. So I thought it was a great way to kind of not end the show, but leave you thinking about more.
Mm-hmm. Michelle?
Real quick, there's
Yeah.
a handful of people that worked on Legend of Korra that work on X-Men.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah,
like
so I
4 or 5.
learned that the animation studio is the same one too, which is amazing. I was like, that's why the animation looks like that. Because I noticed it was like not smooth animation, but it's almost like Legend of Korra and Avatar, which is pretty cool. That's
Hmm.
amazing though. I didn't know about the writing and people worked on it.
Finch's twin Sean worked on Korra.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I
Yeah.
love that connection.
That was the one downside to WonderCon is we were in the same place at the same time. Previously, that had never happened. So you could make the argument that.
Yeah.
All right, Michelle.
I loved Professor X's Dangerous Minds moment. I think I think he needed that to convince himself as well. Like once he got comfortable like on his astral plane, he was in control and he could make people listen. I think in person he kept, getting attacked by Deathbird. She's coming in here with her slurs and everything, and he can't get a word in. She's calling her own sister crazy too. It just escalates like very quickly. So once they're in the classroom, he kind of, explains it in a sense where he's saying like, listen, you can't keep doing this. This is not a great cycle. Like we have to break this cycle. And I think he's even talking himself out of staying as well. Like he's realizing that this isn't the place that he belongs. He needs to go back. He needs to be with his X-Men. He needs to be with his Milky Way ghetto people.
That's right. Back with his peeps. I think we really need to. Those of us into the comics, we really need to divorce our image of Xavier in the comics versus our image of Xavier in the show. So I feel like Xavier in the show, and he showed in this episode, is who we want Xavier to be.
Yeah.
Like this is who we want him to be. That person who is that hero who is like the guiding light, the moral compass that we all expect. For those of you who read the comics, that's very much not true on the printed page. And yet, I don't know if any of you folks ran into this, but I remember growing up and reading the X-Men comics, and I always found myself slightly annoyed with the whole like Shi'ar storyline because I felt like I understood it being as like a metaphor for racism and for bigotry, and I honestly felt like the whole Shi'ar thing got away from that. I mean, it was cool to have spaceships exploding and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until I got older that I got the bigger metaphor of what it was they were trying to say. And I feel like in this episode they really like condensed it down into a solid pill just to like shoot it right at your face. There's still some people who aren't going to get it, but every empire that's existed throughout the world, that's exactly what they have done, is exactly what he's accusing of the Shi'ar of doing. Obviously, he knows this. That's part of the reason why he started the X-Men, so the same thing doesn't happen to mutants. So that part of it I really, really enjoyed. Um, so here now we got to get back to the heavy stuff. Now we're back to Storm and Forge. And so Storm finds, she sees the cactus all the way up in this thing. She's got to crawl up there. She almost gets there. She slips. She drops the flashlight, and now she's in the dark. And adversary's crawling up towards her, which if that doesn't give you nightmares in and of itself, like, yeah, I mean, I'm a grown man and I got the shivers. But, and so there we are. We all know that she's got like an issue with tight spaces. The walls are sort of like closing in around her, and I feel like Storm gets to the point where there's a choice that needs to be made. Like she either just needs to give up and swim down, or become who it is that you basically remember who she is, the same way Xavier had to. So to steal Dylan's line, Storm goes Super Saiyan, and just like we get a storm so powerful that we see a satellite picking it up from space. She gets her amazing new uniform. Her hair is immaculate. She goes on an awesome flight, scares the crap out of some horses, and everything's right with the world again. There's like so much that could be said about this scene, and I'm going to start with Steph on this one because I know she got thoughts.
I could just replay Storm's transformation over and over again. And the fact that the music is the same exact music from the first episode when she brought in the forecast, I thought that was a great touch, and that has become her theme. And I love that for her. And the fact that we got her iconic black bodysuit with her crown and her big hair came back, and all the people that said, where's Storm's big hair and all that, it's back, okay? And Bo actually tweeted, he was like, "You thought I was gonna leave y'all with the mohawk? Like, chill. You knew I was gonna bring the hair back." So I love that. And I think going back to the adversary and the deeper meaning behind it, she says that you have to basically accept your adversary and just become who you are. So it was, and that's how she got her power back. She accepted who she was, and she became stronger than ever. And I love that she went on this flight with like the horses just around the land, this journey, feeling the wind in her hair and her face. She became even stronger. She became even like more happier than she could ever be. And it was really nice to see. And I'm hoping that, we got the black suit. Does that mean we'll get like Colossus and like, that gang, that team back? Like, are we gonna get that? That would be really cool to see in like the second season. So
All right, Michelle.
I love that Storm got her own magical girl moment here. Like Steph already put it so great. Like just seeing her transform. Basically, the parallel stories of suppression, this is when she finally broke free through that. And she literally became like a new version of herself. Like physically and emotionally, like her mental blocks are gone, her powers are back. She's back to being Omega level status. And there was this meme that I saw where someone was like, dang, like Storm like transformed feathers and made a whole new outfit. And then somebody was like, but what about Forge? They're like, this ain't about Forge. This is like her moment to shine and like really like come into her own, because she just like battled so much. She just overcame like physical and mental obstacles to feel the wind again, the lightning, the thunder. Like our queen is back.
And also the fact that the black suit is supposed to come from the adversary's feathers, which was a really, really nice detail. And I read some tweets where people figured that out and they were like freaking out about that. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. That is the adversary. She's basically wearing it. Amazing.
I'm gonna kill you and wear you as my uniform. Yeah, that's brutal. How about you, Dylan?
Storm's my number one. This was fucking amazing. I don't even need there to be any sense to why would her hair grow. Like there's other things like feathers could definitely become outfits. But like where did the hair come from? I don't care. It's Storm. It actually took me seeing somebody post about it on the internet. I didn't really catch that or feel it that way when I watched it, but when the adversary is talking to her, it's telling her just believe in that lie that you told yourself. And then Storm mentions that it wasn't just Forge's gun that was holding her back. So what that, or at least what some people are feeling, is that means that Forge's machine in Life Death Part 1 actually did work. And she was still then also still being suppressed by her own thoughts. And I was like, what? I didn't even think about that. So that was fun. And there's a likely chance, I've been telling myself in 2024 that this was going to be the year that I actually get a tattoo. And my whole tattoo idea for a while now has been to get Storm's tiara. And I'm like, okay, the tiara came back in the animated series. And plus now there's like a whole quote that I can maybe like put in a circle around it that is just awesome.
Mm-hmm. Where are you going to get it?
I don't know.
Oh. Figure that part out later. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was all fantastic, and I thought it was interesting. Like, obviously, there's been like blurring the lines of illusion here, and even when she's putting like the antidote on Forge, and he's kind of like, "There was a demon." Like, what? Like, you could tell that this was all like this internal struggle that she was going through. Um, yeah, and she has that moment there with Forge, and he says, "Hey, should we go to a tropical island?" And she's like, "I got my groove back. Let's go." And then Forge turns on the TV, and the real world comes crashing back in as they, especially Aurora, realizes what's happened on Genosha. Uh, and we sort of get this at the same time where, um, Xavier, he's got class in session. And we think he's getting them to the point of actually like agreeing with him. And then he sort of collapses, as you can tell, like probably the psychic wake of what has happened on Genosha is hitting him, and he's realizing like, oh crap, I left the school and now the school is on fire and everything is really bad. And, sort of says, got to get back to Earth. We got to get back to my X-Men. We got to go. We got to go. And yeah, I'll leave that part because the last part is completely unrelated. Do you guys have any thoughts on either of that or where we think this might be heading with Storm and Xavier now coming back? And yeah, we'll start with you on Michelle on this one.
I don't honestly like I don't know what's gonna happen next because I mean, well, Storm and Professor X are obviously gonna come back to the X-Men. Like they're gonna rejoin the group, but like what's next? Like what big bad is gonna show up? You know, like what is the next thing that our X-Men are gonna have to go through because they've already gone through so much.
Mm-hmm. Dylan?
Uh, yeah, I think of more the reunion aspect of it, and just like Storm would be like, Gambit and Magneto are dead. Where's the baby? Who are you? Type of thing. And like Xavier be like, wait, Jean was pregnant. Wait, well, Jean had a clone. Wait, Magneto's dead. Gambit's dead.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bit rough.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a rough reunion. I think they're all just gonna mourn together. Um, it's definitely gonna hit. I mean, they're really gonna hit Xavier and Storm with a lot of information and everything that's happened, and catch because it's been a year, so a lot of things have happened in a year, including like the stuff in the prequel X-Men 97 comics too. We gotta include that in there. So it's gonna be really interesting. I'm not sure if we're gonna get like a whole scene of like a full conversation of the update or like them updating Storm and Xavier, or if we're gonna get like a little bit and then like the rest will be behind scenes, whatever. But it's gonna be a pretty interesting conversation and one that I feel like we're gonna have to listen to very carefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this definitely has like the 80s trope vibe of like when mom and dad go away and leave the kid at home for a weekend and he has a party and then the parents come back and there's like a goat on the roof and there's stuff floating in the pool that shouldn't be and the kitchen's got burn marks and Xavier's just like, oh my god. Okay. So after that we get the final scene here where we see Bolivar Trask running and says, I'm sorry, like I gave you the DNA to access the Sentinels, which tells us like how the Sentinels got to Genosha. He's sort of shot in the back, but not dead and is down. And Sinister reveals himself, and we're kind of like given the impression that this is the one who is behind the attack on Genosha, which me personally didn't see coming. Like that wasn't my theory. But that scene also has people wondering: is Sinister the one behind everything, or is somebody else behind Sinister on top of it? I'm curious to see what you guys think. Dylan, what do you got?
Um, my thought process has been, what if it's Apocalypse? Because the last time we saw, or last time in the animated series, Sinister was working for him. And then, like, one of the last times we saw Deathbird in the original series, she was working for him too. And, uh, yeah, I just didn't expect to see Sinister again. I was like, well, we saw him, we'll see him in season 2. like because that's how the formula works for the cartoons. But yeah, it was fun to see him.
Mm-hmm. Steph?
Well, I'm gonna take it back a bit to the the astral plane, with Xavier and stuff. Is it the astral plane? Is that
Mm-hmm.
what you want to call it?
Yeah.
Would that be okay? Um, uh, yeah, that whole thing with like Gambit coming up and then turning into a skeleton, like Xavier must have been traumatized from that, and all the
Were
seats,
you
and
traumatized by it, Steph?
I was, what the hell? But the fact that all the seats in the classroom, they weren't all filled, right? And then when that like moment turned and all the skeletons showed up on the seats, all the seats were filled with skeletons. So like that's how you know that there was a lot of deaths, and Xavier's realizing there's a lot of deaths that have occurred when he wasn't there. He's probably, I'm thinking he's like confused as to what's going on, why he's seeing this, and why he's seeing Gambit dead, because obviously he doesn't know that Genosha happened. So he must be like so traumatized and scared right now, seeing especially Gambit, like a huge ass Gambit coming up, and then like releasing the same energy that the Sentinel was releasing onto Genosha, and then turning into a skeleton. That must have been just so traumatizing. And I thought when that happened, when I was watching it, I was like, what is happening? I was like, what's going on? Like same as when I was watching episode 5 and Genosha scene. I was like, what is going on now? But yeah, that was really frightening to see. Um, but as for Sinister at the end, um, I do think there's somebody else behind Sinister controlling this. I'm thinking that it's Apocalypse. Um, I know that we saw Apocalypse in the previous show, and obviously, he was the big bad and behind everything, really. So it wouldn't really surprise me that he'd be behind this attack on Genosha as well. And then we'll just either we'll see in the last 3 episodes, which is there 4 episodes after 3?
4.
4, yeah.
4? Okay, it's 10 altogether. Okay, so I guess we'll have to see in the last 3 episodes. Maybe we'll find out. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Michelle?
I don't know if anybody is really behind Sinister or if Sinister just has this crazy plan to get baby Nate back, because maybe he's like, oh, if I create all this chaos, then baby Nate is going to travel back in time to save his mom and then I can get him. Because, like, that was what he was really after. He was after the baby because he wanted to create the perfect mutant and then it got away from him. So maybe this is his really elaborate, crazy plan to get Cable back, because our next episode is Bright Eyes, and that could allude to Cable returning. So that's maybe my theory.
Dylan?
It's I agree with everything Michelle said because of Bright Eyes being Cable's nickname from the animated series. So yeah, I feel like the next episode is probably just like an entire Cable episode and like catching him up to the same point. So like Storm and Professor got caught up to present in this one. Then maybe the next one is all Cable, and who knows, maybe some other story that relates, like Xavier relating to Black Death. But yeah, I think next episode will probably be another catch-up episode, and then the 3-part finale will be everything.
Mm-hmm.
I assume in the next episode we're gonna see Cable in the future, like what happens after he's brought to the future, and I guess like a quick like recap of him growing up and where he's at. And then at the end of the episode, I feel like we're gonna get to the point of Genosha. We're gonna see him go through the portal to the future and see his mother and try and warn people and then have to go back. And then we'll see like him going back and figuring out like why he had to go back. So we'll see basically what happens. That's what my thought is. And I'm hoping, I don't know if it'll happen in this episode, but I'm hoping that Cable does some like time travel thing and just keeps on going back to the point to try and save people. Like, I don't know if we're gonna keep seeing that or if that's gonna be saved for something else. I've also heard theories, and like this is like what I'm thinking as well, that Gambit's probably not coming back. Um, I don't know. I've read theories of people saying this, and people feel like he's not going to come back, and there's a part of me deep down that's like, Gambit's probably not coming back for this season. But I hope that's not true. So Cable, you better fix your shit right now. Okay? So much trauma in the last few episodes. I need something good.
You and Gambit, you had 5 episodes together. Be happy it happened, not sad that it's over. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, that saying doesn't apply right now.
Well, we can hold out hope. I mean, if Apocalypse is involved, maybe he's gonna be a horseman, like in another season. Like maybe we won't get him the rest of this season, but he's, he could come back as Death in like season 3 or something.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, I feel like he'd come back as a horseman.
Yeah.
Just, that would make a lot of sense, especially if Apocalypse is behind all this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gambit's going to get his villain era. For sure. Yeah.
What if the next episode and they keep showing Cable like go 2 different times because he kept messing up? What if we get to watch it die over and over and over and in different fashions too? Like maybe the cable goes through his forehead instead of his
Or he comes back and he just saves his mom. He's like, okay, I'm good,
He's like, Mom, come with me real quick. Bye.
Yeah.
Like Doctor Strange and Dormammu.
Yes.
He kept on dying.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Cable's from like way in the future. They're going to be like, "Why didn't you save Gambit?" And he's like, "Who? I've never heard that name. Was this somebody you knew? Was this a video game? What?"
We call him Death now. He's Death.
Yeah. I off that mofo.
I also hope that we get a little bit of when baby Nathan went to the future, because I would like us to get more Bishop, because I feel like we were, ooh, Bishop was great. And now he's gone. Mm-hmm. Please bring him back.
Or what if he comes back with Cable? Because Cable's like, listen, man, I cannot get it together. I need a wingman. And Bishop's like, all right, this isn't my first rodeo. I got you, bro.
Yeah.
And they come back together as a team. They divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So they can...
Body Slide Bros.
Yeah.
I'm all about it.
There we go.
That could be its own spin-off series, like a buddy cop thing. Yeah, I'm all about it.
Yeah, like Back Mountain. Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking more Lethal Weapon, but all right. I'm open to ideas. That's fine.
Oh, bro, it's okay.
Oh, and we also want to know, because we had that. I hate to bring up, like, I feel like Steph just shudders anytime you say Genosha, but we still have that thing where Cable came to Madeline and kept saying like he's coming. We still need to know who he is. Uh-huh. Is it Apocalypse? Is it Sinister? Is it Nimrod? What are we dealing with here? So that
Bishop, he's coming to clean up Cable's mess.
Yes.
He's like, you're about to die, but it's fine. Bishop will fix it.
He's like, you know what? Bishop's coming. He is cool. Don't worry, Mom. I got you.
Yeah, peace. I'm out. Yeah. Well, and I feel like it'll be interesting, because it was kind of like you said with Doctor Strange and Dormammu, and there was that movie I think back in the 50s called, what was it called, Time and Time Again, where this guy was going back in time constantly trying to stop a disaster, but he kept falling just short. I feel like that could be an interesting frame for that episode, because especially when it's like, his thing says body, and in the past, anytime we saw Cable time travel in the show, he had control over it. And this time it had control over him, because it just popped up body slide by one. He's like, no, not again.
Yeah.
And boom, he out. So yeah, I think once again we're gonna say like, hey, the next episode is gonna be awesome. We don't even know what's gonna happen, but we're excited because it's gonna be awesome.
I mean, haven't they gotten more and more awesome every time? So it's like, episode 1 and 2, the next one's awesome. Oh my God, Inferno, that was awesome. Oh, yeah. Motento. Oh, yeah. But like every
Gambit
episode,
died. No spoilers.
They have to make us in our feels so that they can put us in our like positive feels. You know, it has to be an emotional roller coaster so we're invested.
Mhm.
Like
Cliffhangers
keeps us
every
coming back.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they got us. The question that I had that I honestly don't know the answer to, have we heard anywhere when season 2 is supposed to premiere? Like, is it going to be a full year until we get season 2? Because that's going to be painful. That's going to be a long, cold, like 10, 11 months of like, especially if like the last 3 episodes end on like some major thing like we did with Remember It. And then we're just like, oh, I guess we're just going to sit here for months and months and months and months and wait. Nobody's heard anything. They haven't announced anything.
no.
No.
And the last time between seasons was 27 years. So anything shorter than
Ah,
Yeah. That's true. That's very fair.
we waited
Yeah,
20.
Dylan has the right idea.
Fine. Like Finch, some of us may not have been alive long enough to be waiting that long, but I know that you, me, and Michelle have been waiting.
listen, back in my day, we didn't have no stream. The stream was out back. You went swimming.
Exactly. We didn't
Yeah,
have instant streaming. You had to catch it Saturday morning and then hope it was not a rerun.
yeah,
Like,
And
come
then
on.
yeah.
in the future, we can all be like, back in my day, we had to wait 27 years between seasons.
Well, to be
We
fair, I had Saturday mornings just for other shows.
Yes.
Or like after school stuff. That was the main stuff. After school shows and episodes. That was my thing.
was there and I'm on a side tangent now. There were times there where they were putting episodes out on Saturday night. I remember
Mhm.
Fox doing that. Because I remember, I think I've told Michelle this story, but the funny thing is the original animated show premiered when I was 12 years old. And when we got a couple of years into it, I was older than 12 years old, and I had a girlfriend over at the house, and my parents were gone, and we were on the couch playing Kissy Kissy. Fox was on in the background, and they ran a promo for the Dark Phoenix saga, and I sat up and pushed my girlfriend off me and said, "No way. No way. Are you serious?" And she's like, "Are you serious?" And so her and I aren't married. Now I'm married to my wife, who's an X-Men fan, because that makes way more sense. But I do vividly remember them sometimes having Saturday like premiere episodes.
Yeah, I think it was Dark Phoenix ones, and then whatever the name of that episode is with Deathstrike in the sewers. I think that one was also a nighttime one, and then also the weird Wolverine Sabretooth Silver Fox episode, because like they changed the name of that instead of like sex and violence, it was just like secrets and violence. But like the commercials were very like, even back then, and they're like, we know the adults, so the people watching this, we're gonna call this secrets and violence. But yeah,
I'm excited for more of it. I feel like there's a Wolverine deficit here that needs to be rectified immediately. I love Bo DeMeo, and I love everything he's done. And he had said that his original pitch to Fox was that this was not a Wolverine show, and I do appreciate that. However, when you think about it, bear with me. I've had this theory for years, and this isn't just Marvel, this isn't just X-Men. As anytime I'm watching a movie or show or reading a comic, my gauge is how big of a problem is this for Wolverine. Infinity War, mildly busy afternoon. Solo, no problem. Genosha, Rogue, throw me at that thing. This thing's over. They have to sideline him because otherwise the other characters are just standing around watching like, hey, good job, Logan. So I understand that. Other characters need development too, right? Or am I just an a-hole?
I didn't know that you were gonna get 3 new people to do the rest of the season with you. Comments like that.
I didn't know Wolverine was an Omega level mutant.
Yeah.
He
I'm
doesn't need to
sorry,
be. He doesn't even know what that means.
Saturday for the rest of the series. I can't do this.
I mean, he's so old though. He could just ride this out and like roll with a whole new team in like a few hundred years. So
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll just adapt.
Yeah.
Like, oh, God, they all got killed again. I guess I'll go start X-Men 2099. Might as well. I'll go find old Bright Eyes and we'll get this thing going.
Yeah. He needs a Jean or Summers in his life. So
That is True, but there's clones now. That's the thing. So his mind's going all kinds of different places with this now. So
I don't know. I think he really only likes Jean. Like Cyclops is the one that's into clones.
that's true.
Yeah.
Doesn't Wolverine have like an Omega level nose and he couldn't even smell that she wasn't Jean?
I legit always wondered about that. I'm not joking. I legit always wondered about that myself. Because, oh yeah, and we haven't talked about this. One of my theories is that Cooper, did we talk about this? That Cooper is Mystique.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I thought that might blow that thing is Wolverine, because obviously Wolverine would smell Mystique. But at no point in time in the show have they been in close proximity to each other. And the one time they were in the X-Men 97 comic, Wolverine kind of says, "What's that? That smells familiar," and then just kind of puts that out of his mind and goes on with his day. So that's a theory. Is my theory valid, or you guys got something else?
I think he has a sinus infection.
He can't get a sinus infection. He can't.
Maybe, or maybe he's got bad allergies. I don't know. Or maybe they be wearing that pheromone perfume, and that could just be like messing with him a little bit. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, he's old and dusty, so
yeah.
it happens. Oh, well, okay. We'll get close to closing this thing out. Does anybody have any more thoughts on this episode? Anything you hope to see going forward? Any sort of closing arguments, thoughts, moans, groans, complaints?
If we remember the really awesome trailer that came out that I'm sure we all watched, like screen cap by screen cap back in February, there was a coffin in there at some point. So somebody is going to have a funeral that we haven't watched yet.
Don't even get me started, because I forgot about that till you mentioned it. Like, don't tell me the next episode.
The episode after Bright Eyes is just all a funeral for Gambit. I don't know that.
I
But it's very
would be off the internet, away from society for the next 3 to 5 business days.
Maybe it's Val Cooper because Mystique murdered her to take her place, and they found the body, and they're like, "Oh man, now I gotta have a funeral." So it's it's misdirection. It's misdirection.
misdirection.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe. It's always misdirection with these trailers, so we'll just have to see.
Well, and with one of the more recent ones, there was a Captain America shield. So
Yeah.
Although, yeah, you're right. So my theory is that we're going to get one of these post-apocalyptic future, and somebody like Logan or Cable or somebody is going to have Captain America's shield. That's my theory. But because if not, that opens up like a whole nother huge chapter of the things they can do with this show going forward.
Unless somehow because we know that Storm is going to be in What If Season 3. So it could be like by the end of the season, they'll somehow make it to the MCU's universe. And I don't know, it could be one of those, or it could just be like their own universe as Captain America, because there was all these crossovers they did in the 90s. So it wouldn't be random for them to do it now in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where you get Wolverine, because like Cap and Wolverine go back,
Yeah.
like way back. So that's gonna be your Wolverine content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're old and dusty.
All the bros. It's like the next episode is gonna be all about the bros. So we're gonna get Bishop and Cable. We're gonna get Cap and Wolverine, and Cyclops and Professor X. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you want to play a game of like six degrees with all that, back in the 90s, Lawrence Bain, who did the voice of Cable, also did the voice of Captain America.
That's right. That's right.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's what I think we'll get. I think we'll get next episode will be Bro episode, and then we're going to have a 3-episode Gambit funeral procession. It's going to take 3 episodes because he's Southern and they got to wait for all his relatives to show up. So it's just going to take a really long time.
He doesn't even have family though.
Is pretending.
Yeah.
Like what family? He has no
family.
It shouldn't take more than 5 minutes.
He's from the South. He's got family.
Are they gonna have like a whole like a band
The,
at the procession and you know like jazz
yeah,
music be playing or
they
it's gonna be very
Yeah,
Louisiana?
It's gonna be
yeah.
all his ex-girlfriends
See, that's who all's going to show
Gonna put
up.
a
That's what's going to
deck of
take so
and
long.
cards on his
boyfriends
coffin
and
as it's going down
boyfriends.
in the ground. Instead of flowers that people put on the coffin, they just put
yeah.
cards.
They just moved Mardi Gras to Gray Malkin Lane for a day. It's fine.
Damn.
That's it. They wait till Mardi Gras and they give him a Mardi Gras funeral.
Oh.
He's gonna be like ripening for a while. I don't know what time of year that this show is taking
Stefania,
place in.
if they don't bring season 2 back and he's still dead next to Mardi Gras, I need you to go to Mardi Gras and like do a whole Rogue Gambit funeral.
Oh, I will, and I will be sure be drinking some good stuff in at Mardi Gras, you know. So collecting those beads and all in honor of Gambit.
Yeah, just be careful down there because I figure that area is also ripe for like Friends of Humanity territory. Like
Oh yeah,
that's area's pretty red.
Louisiana, New Orleans Mardi Gras time is like pretty wild. So
There we are. Well, all right, folks, we're gonna bounce out of here. I want to thank everybody for being in here. When we're off of this, I will beg you all in chat to come back next week, despite my Wolverine-ish behavior.
Oh my God,
But
week is all about Cable. He won't be in it either, hopefully.
yeah, he will.
oh yeah,
Yeah, somebody's got to save Cable's ass.
Bishop.
But
yeah.
oh, somebody's got to save Bishop's ass. So Alicia's here. Alicia, you came in right at the end. Alicia, you missed all the fantastic Xavier talk, but I'll have this saved so you can go back and watch it because I know that's like near and dear to you. But yeah, we're gonna get out of here, folks. Thank you everybody for joining in, commenting, all this kind of stuff, and we will talk to you again another time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.